Hello, my name is Phil Hall and welcome to my tutorial today on using macros in Excel 2010. Hopefully you've opened the spreadsheet that comes along with this tutorial. You'll see that it's a spreadsheet that has several different headers at the top and several different rental agreements going down the side, data points within the columns. So what we're going to do today is learn about macros and how to utilize them and how they could help you in your daily work. And what a macro does is it records your keystrokes and then allows you to do those same keystrokes either with a touch of a button or a pressing of a keystroke on the keypad. And I'm going to show you how to do both of those. So we take this spreadsheet and then we're going to just start off with your basic macros, something that's just really easy to utilize. So if we go to, let's say, just sheet 3, you should see something like this. And so let's say we just wanted to do a basic function of summing January's total numbers. So that would be B2 to B10. It's really easy. How you would normally do it is probably just going to a certain cell, let's say B11, clicking auto sum and hitting enter. And that would bring that up. And that's adding all these together. But we can define a macro to do that as well. So just to show you how you could use a macro. So if you're using 2010, go ahead and press this icon down here, and that's going to start the macro window. And the macro window allows you to name the macro, so let's call it sum. And then you can assign it a shortcut key. So let's do S. And then you can describe it if you want. We're only going to have one macro, so we're not going to need really a description. And then you can hit OK. And now it is recording everything you do. So if I go up and click on auto sum and hit enter, it's now done that. And then you come down here and hit stop. So you just did your first macro. And I can show you by clicking that, deleting in C11 and then hitting Control S. And there it went. Just that quick, it did it. I can show it to you again. Delete, Control S, and that's exactly what it does. So that Control S pretty much activates the macro because that's what I assigned it. For the most part, you do have to be in the cell that you want running the macro. That's not necessarily true because you can devise a macro that goes home first, and that's what I would, if location matters on your macro, that's what I would recommend being the very first item on any macro. If location matters, control home being the first step in any macro, and I'll show you why. Because we did that. Control S, we'll put it there. But if we get rid of that, and then I go ahead and re-record it, and I call it summary. We'll call it summary. And D will be there. And then I'll hit that. And then you go, the first thing I want to do is control home. Control home. And then come where I want it. And then hit the auto sum. And then hit enter. And then go down and stop recording the macro. Now I have two different things. I have a Control D, which puts it there, and then I also have a Control S, which also does the same thing. Well, you're saying, well, what's the difference? Well, let's say I go down here and I hit Control D. It will put it back here. But if I go down here and hit Control S, see what happens? What it's summing is these items here. Because that's what that first macro did, is it said sum 9 cells above wherever your cursor is. So that's a pretty important distinction. So the Control S is going to give you that, where the Control D gives you this. And that's probably what you want. Unless, of course, you want to go, the first one might be good to do because you can go across. Like that, but if you did that with Control D, it doesn't give you that because it goes home, goes down, and then over to, and then it sums these first. So it's always going to only give you this cell worth of data. So that's something you really need to pay attention to is if location matters, hit Control Home first few keystrokes of the macro, and that will help you with a lot of headaches. So let's do another example of a macro, and really you can do anything from, well, let's go here, change. So we'll say it's change, and you hit OK. Or you can put a keystroke, or you can just leave it alone. We'll go ahead and leave it without the keystroke and hit OK. And now it's recording. And so let's say we go down here and summary. And then you hit stop. And you hit stop. Oops, you got to get out of that. And then you hit stop. Sorry. So what's going to happen is it's going to anytime you run that macro, it's going to change this sheet to summary. So I mean, truly, you can use it for anything within Excel that is a defined few step, and you can do it for printing. You can hit a macro and make it print. You can make a macro do a certain formula like I just showed you. Let me show you how you assign it to a clickable item. So what you do is you go to insert, and then you can do a picture if you want. Let's say I have these pictures, insert, and then I just wanted to make that my button. So if I click on this, it will do that function. When you're clicked on it, and it'll show it and highlight that you're clicked on it, and then right click, assign macro, and then you just go find some. And then you click off of it, and you can come here, and there it is. And that assigns a macro to that button, that picture, if you will. And you can do that with pretty much anything that you can insert. You can do it with a clip art, shape if you want. You'll see this more often. Just a little item like that they right click, assign, and you go find summary. And then so now, if I delete that, click on this, it does that macro. And then, of course, you can always name it summary. That's how you assign a macro to a button, or a picture, or clip art if you wanted. I don't know that I have any clip art. But that's how you would do it. It's just clicking on something. You could do it with if you have a graph of information, you just come here and you just say, I want a bar chart. Just a basic bar chart. And if you wanted to, you could assign a macro to it. Let me delete that. So now this chart has a macro assigned to it. And these are really basic macros. They're more evolved macros that you can get into, but you really need to learn how to write code to get into those type of macros. Anytime you want to look at what kind of macros you have on any given sheet, you can always go to Developer, the Developer tab, and then click Macros, and it will give you a list. Now if you want, that's all open workbooks or this workbook. So you'll see change, sum, and summary. So those are the three that we have in just this workbook. And of course you can go into them and you can say edit, and this is the actual wording of the macros. So that's why if you could actually write this if you knew anything about coding. But I'm not really going to show that today. What's important to know is, let's say you wanted to save this spreadsheet. What's very important is you have to go to Save As, and you have to choose this Excel macro enabled workbook. So you can name it whatever you want, but it has to be saved as that, because if you choose anything else, it's going to kill the macros. They're not going to be, the next time you come into them, they won't be there. So that's also important, is you have to save it as a XLSM if you're using 2010. So just one more example of a type of macro that you might want to run sometime. Let's say you have a sheet here and you wanted to get some information. I mean, you could go equals, or whoops, let me start the macro, sorry. So you go get. So you want this basically to say equals, that's one sheet, RA. And then let's say you wanted to come up here and copy it down. And then maybe even copy it over. And you say stop. Okay, I'm going to delete that so I'll be able to show you that it actually does that. Since I did not put a keystroke to it, I either have to come to developer and actually run go get from here. There you go. Or I have to assign it to either a picture, fine, go get. And I put it over here. So there you go. I certainly hope this has helped you with learning how to do macros. They're not as intimidating as you might think they are. They're pretty easy. The basic ones are. The more complicated macros are more complicated, not only to record but to design as well. So I hope this has helped. Thank you.